Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
Hi, friends. Welcome to Dads and Daddies, a podcast about the lives and times of adult gay men in the here and now. I'm Brian Ruben Sowers, the dad.
And I am Judson Morrow, the daddy.
Hi, Judson.
Oh my God, Brian, my heart so wells to see you. It's crazy.
Same. So our listeners hear us week after week. They don't know that you and I have been apart for like a month.
One whole month.
Yeah.
This is how organized Brian is. He's like, oh, bitch, you're going to be gone. We got some midweek recording to do.
So, yes, you're welcome. But also apologies, because I know that it might be jarring sometimes when we're talking about a part of the year that it isn't. Right now, we're only recording this episode a month before you're going to hear it. But we've got more travel coming up. And pretty soon, our episode's going to be a little bit even farther off. But we will get back to our 11-day in advance recording schedule by the end of the year.
Yeah, eventually. So you won't have to hear us talk about Halloween in July.
Yeah, exactly. Hi, Judson.
Hey, babe.
How are you?
You know, I'm really good. I'm really good.
I'm very happy to hear that.
Really good. Exclamation point, comma, question mark, but really good.
All right. So I saw you post on your own Instagram that you have now gotten back into after months locked out.
Yeah, Brian was like, can you stop using the Dads and Daddies pod as your personal dating service? I was like, okay.
And Judson miraculously remembered his password and got back in. But I saw that you post kind of this whirlwind trip that you've taken. Do you want to tell our listeners?
Yeah, I'll give the highlight reel, the harbor cruise of the whirlwind. Yeah. And then I think over the next couple episodes, I'll focus on specific parts.
Yes.
Because there was just so much.
Yes.
Between the Monday morning of Pride and now, which is like the end of July,
yes,
I went from New York City to Rochester to Boston to Provincetown to Detroit to Toledo, back to Detroit. It was insane.
That sounds insane.
There were all the reasons. And the big one is, on Sunday night of Pride in New York City, I had helped a friend, our friend Jordan Hurt,
yes,
pass out swag for the app Queerity. We had an amazing time. I was done in the city around like 4:35. I came home, I had dinner, I went to bed. And I bolted upright at 4 o'clock in the morning and I was like, something is wrong. Like something is really wrong. And I went out to the kitchen and I picked up my phone and I had 3 missed calls from my husband and a slew of text messages that his dad had died.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
This was a man that I got to spend time with. He was incredible. How old was he?
Listen, this is not tragic. This is a celebration of life. He was 96 years old.
But you would never have known.
You would never know.
He joined us once for Shabbat dinner, and we had other friends here. And the mom of that family, her mom has got to be in her 70s. And she wanted to set her mom up with Bruce's dad because she could not imagine that they were more than a few years apart in age, because he had such a joie de vivre. I mean, he was so alive, and he joined us at the Cyclones game last year when we, Dads and Daddies, sponsored the Cyclones game for Pride Night. And this man was just so full of life. And, as your husband said, after his passing, that he didn't just lose his father, but he lost one of his best friends. And he was really part of the gang.
He was such a force. He had so much energy. And the thing that's crazy is, like, his memory was a steel trap.
Yeah.
Like, if I didn't do my actual paid job 2 days in a row, I would forget how to I would forget how to do it. Or like my memory versus my memory. I saw this online. Like, people my age know all the words to Wannabe from the Spice Girls, but can't remember why they came into the kitchen.
Right.
He, and this is the best part. He was really, really, really healthy until 10 days before he passed.
Okay.
And to be quite honest, and my husband, it's easy for me on this show to mention it so casually, and I don't do it for shock value, but Bruce and I have been managing basically our parents' health for a long time.
Yeah.
And he was really healthy right up until like 10 days before he passed. He passed in his sleep at a hospital. The Shiva was incredible. Like, it was just such a celebration of life. Like, all the old pictures came out. All the friends showed up. Like, people who have known him for 70 years came to honor him.
Yeah.
So that's why we were in Rochester.
Yes.
My husband had been in P-Town, having started his vacation, and left to meet me in Rochester. I drove up with his brother from New York City. And even that ride, like a 6-hour car drive with my brother-in-law, was incredible.
Yeah.
Like, all of the events around this very sad circumstance were really special and sweet.
That's
and
so
you
nice.
guys were amazing. Like, you guys
we
were
would have
amazing.
been there were we not at Disneyland with our children at the same time.
No, I know that, and I understand. Like, as adults, it's like we get there when we can, but you guys were just awesome. Like, people's support has been really incredible, especially because now I feel like we're so young to be what we've been calling 75% orphaned. Like, there's one parent left, and it's my mom. So in the good way, we've been through this before, so we know what to do.
Right.
And in the bad way, we have been through this before.
Right. I'm going to ask you a favor.
Please.
Can you talk about at least one more part of your trip so that when I go into what I have to tell you, I don't sound like a callous bitch by switching from funeral?
There's no smooth transition. So ask me the question, I will answer it, and then we can get to your sluttiness. No problem. What is it?
No, my question is, can you talk about one more fun part of your trip? Go to the next part.
Oh, yeah. So what was so funny is that everyone who came to this Shiva had actually been on vacation. So the funeral looked like a Trader Joe's, like a Trader Joe's employee meeting.
That's really funny.
From Rochester, we flew to Boston and took the ferry to Provincetown, which was a really beautiful. The timing was kind of incredible. It was an awesome place to be able to heal and spend time with each other and spend time with our chosen family in gay paradise.
And new friends.
And old friends. And all those details are forthcoming. And now you have that, so you don't feel like such a bitch.
I'm like, I also, even though I didn't have the travel schedule that you did, I have a lot to talk about over the last month, and I've been trying to parse it out because we're recording a few times this week. And I was like, okay, there's one story, actually kind of two stories that are related that are really relevant to today's guest that I want to tell. But I didn't expect you to start by going into the funeral.
It's so, and this may seem so insensitive to people who have not been through this. And I think being on the other side of this is what makes it so funny, because life is so crazy and we hold all these multiple truths. And yeah, tell me about your kink, Brian.
So we went on a trip immediately after school ended for the kids, and we were gone for about a week. And then we had a few weeks between then and now where the kids were just home. Typically, we would book them with day camps, but we just didn't for a variety of reasons, because they were going off to sleepaway camp. And we just felt like, let's just give them some chill time. And Toby was excited to take that on because his work is a lot quieter than mine is right now. And so he was happy to take that on. They're so much fun. We love our kids. So there was one day, though, that my work schedule was quiet enough that I could be at home and be on calls, and they could be around. And largely what they want to do is just hang out at home and play with each other. And when we give them permission, watch some TV. But, so I said to him one day, I was like, you just take the day. Like, you're welcome to take the day. And so he did. And when he came home that night, I was really happy because, as we've talked about before at length, our communication when it comes to our open relationship has really evolved. And it went from him like not wanting to talk about it at all to this particular day I'm talking about. When I gave him the day, he came home like almost giddy to tell me about his day. And he had 2 hookups. And one of them he described to me, and this podcast is mine, not his, so I'm not going to talk about his business, but one that he described to me involved some kink and involved him being blindfolded the entire time from like arrival to departure. And he was telling me all about it, and he seemed really excited by it. And so I immediately went on to Amazon and ordered a blindfold. And I think I searched for like adult bedroom blindfold. I couldn't figure out like what the terms would be on Amazon, but I found the right thing. And, he and I had our weekend sex date planned, and I said like, oh, I would love to do that with you and for you. And so I asked him to kind of talk me through, what his hookup had been like. And the only element that we kept from it was the blindfold, but I just thought like, oh, I'm going to have some fun with this. And so, and one of the things I asked him about was like how the instructions were given as to what he was supposed to do. And they were all kind of, because this was negotiated within the apps, it was all kind of like laid out before he got there. So I'm, reading Kink For Dummies, and it got a lot of thoughts into my head. And one of which is about agreeing to everything beforehand and consent and all of that. And so I asked Toby, if he knew about the blindfold, but I said, well, can I tie you up? And he said, yeah, no limits. And I said, no limits? And he said, well, and within reason. And I said, well, years ago when it was our leather anniversary, I bought a paddle, and we never use it. We used it like that one night, and it freaked the shit out of our dog at the time. So I was like, can I use the paddle? He's like, yeah, you can use the paddle. And then I said, can I use wax? And he was like, oh, sure, yeah, you can use wax. And so I set the scene in our room. I even changed out our light bulb to a red light bulb, which we usually use for Halloween, but it kind of just makes it seedier and sexier. I cut up a belt, like a thin belt that I never use, and added holes to it and everything, and like tested on my own wrists. And like, so I like created this little like bondage tool. I found a candle, put it on my nightstand, put a lighter there, and I laid the blindfold out on his pillow, and I typed up a note, and I used Courier, so it looked like it was done on a typewriter. And the note just said, blindfold on your back, hands over your head. And I printed that out, and I made it so I ripped it up so it was like half the size of an 8.5 by 11 page, and I laid that on the pillow next to the blindfold. Oh, and do you know the Enigma, the band Enigma?
I don't know the band Enigma.
They have a song, Principles of Lust. And this was something that when I was in college in the mid-90s, my best friend in college said that it was like the best song to have sex to. And it's like just a beat with like some like chorus of monks like singing in the background. I'm sure if you've heard it, you'd be like, oh, yes.
Yeah.
So I put that on repeat. It's like an 11-minute track. The sex was fun. It was kind of silly. And I tried to talk as dirty and daddy as I could. It was fun. I ended up not using the wax, but what he said to me, I lit the candle, and I'm still burned from it. But what he said to me was just the anticipation of knowing that wax could happen, kind of like raised his senses. And but I did tie him up, and he had the blindfold on. And it was fun. It was fun. But like what we talked about afterwards kind of comes back to something we talk about all the time, which is like, we can't be everything for one person. It's like what I can give him that other people can't give him is husband sex.
Correct.
And we have really amazing husband sex. And he was like, that was really fun and I loved it. But like the date, like I'm never going to be able to give him the danger.
Yes.
But what I can give him is great husband sex. And so it was a fun adventure. It was a fun little experience. But I think we kind of both learned that like, let's leave that to other folks. But we also learned like I think he did enjoy the paddle. I think it was like it hurt more than he expected, but I think he finally like got into that. I think the tying up can be fun, but I don't think it needs to be a whole like scenario when it's the two of us. But here's the real story. So then that's really all set up for this story. So then he goes out so that was on a Sunday. And then a few days later, he went to spend a night. A friend has a country house in Connecticut for the summer he rented. And so he gathered a few friends. Toby was one of them. He went up for a night. So I had like 36 hours without him here. And because it's summer break, there was no reason to set an alarm in the morning. So we all just kind of slept in. And at one point, my older daughter comes into the bedroom, and wakes me up and kind of lays in bed with me and we're chatting. And on his nightstand, he has this like booklet she once made for him with, a little book of construction paper and some nice sentiments that she wrote for him. Well, inside of that, he had put the note that I had written with instructions, which I didn't know. And so she's on the bed and she sees this little book she made for him and she grabs the book and she's looking through it and she comes upon the note. And I still don't know this. I'm just like laying in bed. I don't realize that the note is in there as she's looking through the book. And she says, "Should I be worried?" And then she reads the note to me. "Blindfold on your back, hands over your heads." She read that to me. And I just pass it off.
I'm
I say,
fucking dying.
I just say, no. That's just part of a joke. It's a grown-up thing. It was for me and your dad. Like, it was nothing. Don't worry about it. And we move on. We're talking about other things. And I don't really think anything else of it other than that, like, oh, Toby's going to love this story and the pod's going to love this story, right? So then the kids are playing and my kids, like, are obsessed with each other 95% of the time until they want to kill each other. And so I'm working and they've been so good all morning. And then all of a sudden I hear, like, shouting. The older one is shouting at the younger one, "No, don't tell him. No, don't tell him." And the younger one is saying, "But you already told him." And, our younger one is a bit of a tattletale and we've been trying to work on that. And so I hear this and I say, "Listen, like if your older sister doesn't want me to know something, like I don't want to know. So like, don't tell me." And she says, "But she already told you." And so I say to the older one, "Well, if it's something you already told me, why can't she tell me? Why are you making a big deal of this?" And she says, "Fine." And so the younger one comes up and says, "Is it true she found a note that says something about blindfolding?" And I was like, "Yes, but it was just part of a game and it's really nothing to worry about." But what I realized, and she said like, "Oh, because it really creeped her out." And so what I realized is like, my older one passed it off for me as like, okay, whatever. But like, it really rattled her and she had to go to her sister and confide in her that I found this note in the bedroom. And then she wasn't talking to the younger sister because the younger sister said this to me. And so I had to say to her, I was like, "Listen, like, it wasn't a betrayal of trust. I think like you were really rattled by it. And so you had to confide in somebody. And then she was really rattled by it and needed to know that everything was okay. And so like, this is what my attempt at having kink sex with my husband amounted to, is freaking out both my daughters."
I'm going to think about this every time I water my plants, and I'm grateful that that is the only life I have to care for. That is crazy in the best way. Like I don't even know how to describe it. Like it was just an accident. It's like your bedroom, a sheet of paper in a booklet.
And outside of the fact that I was inspired by something that happened outside our relationship, this has nothing to do with our open relationship. This could have happened to any couple.
This could have happened to any couple.
Yeah.
Let us get that clear.
Yeah.
This could have happened to any other queer couple. This could have happened to a straight couple.
Yeah.
The things that are just like lying around in your bedroom, you forget.
Yeah.
I think this is a good opportunity to share that, and we'll have to get into the specifics later. When I was a teenager, probably like 8th or 9th grade, I found my parents' sex tape. So these things happen.
Yeah.
These things happen. Like, they must have forgotten about it. I was just going, I'm a child of the 80s, teen of the 90s. I was just looking for a blank tape.
Right.
Because I wanted to tape something.
Right.
So I'm going
Probably something Britney Spears related.
Something Britney Spears.
Yes.
I'm just going through. Yeah, I wanted to tape like TRL.
Yeah.
And I'm going through the tapes in this hutch in our living room, and I find my parents' sex tape, which they had clearly forgotten about, and like shuffled it into just like old Super Bowl videos. Right. So these things happen.
This is in our future, by the way, because Toby and I made a sex tape a long time ago. I mean, and by sex tape, it's not like a VHS. It's like a file somewhere.
Right.
But I don't entirely know where it is. And at some point, our kids are going to have a reason to go through our hard drives and stumble upon it.
Yeah.
Hopefully they're like, we're dead and they're going through our stuff for like...
Yeah.
Full circle.
So they don't have...
Call back.
Call back to the beginning.
An intentional callback.
I love... Thank you for pointing out like that this truly could have happened to any
This had nothing to do with our open relationship.
It could have happened to any couple. Yeah. And... like, aside from that, I just think it's
any couple that fucks, by the way.
Any couple that has sex, because we know a lot of couples that don't.
Yeah. Hopefully, if you're listening to this podcast.
Hopefully, if you're listening, you are a fucker.
You've gotten your groove back.
I just was, even before like all of this unfolded with your children, I just want to say, like, I'm really proud of you. Like, Daddy's proud of you for just like trying something new. And as we discovered, like in Kink for Dummies, you don't have to commit.
Right.
Like, you commit to trying it, you put it on your interest inventory, you give it a whirl. Yeah. And what's awesome is that it doesn't mean that this is not a kink that either one of you don't want to pursue. Right. It just means it's not the right partner for that particular kink.
Exactly that. I can't wait for Jack to be here because I feel like I learned so much about myself reading Kink for Dummies.
Oh, yes.
Right?
I have not understood myself better from a book since the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions.
I actually have something to say about that too when he's here. All right. I'm so happy you're back. I'm so happy we're doing this again.
Glad to be here.
The funny thing is we're recording 3 times this week and then we have another month off, but it's not quite as long a break as the last one. But one thing I have very much missed in your absence is listening to our listeners' hookups of the week.
Hot hookup of the week.
Hey, Brian and Judson. I'd love to tell you a story about a really hot Grindr connection that I had that took about a year to land. The background is that I'm a verse bottom, aka a bottom, and I had been sexting with this hot dom top who lived across the street from my office building. We had been texting for about 6 months on Grindr, and we never seemed to land an in-person meetup. And I thought to myself, you know what? He's just not that into me. And so I let it go. Flash forward another 6 months of us not talking, and I was in an airport lounge at the airport with my husband and all of our friends getting ready for our very first trip to Puerto Vallarta. And I refreshed my Grindr grid, and there he was, 0 feet away. So naturally, I went and introduced myself to him, and he and his husband were also flying to Puerto Vallarta. It turns out that they have a second home there. He met all of my friends. We sat, we talked. He gave us recommendations for where to get a good massage, where to have dinner, where to have drinks. And then he told us about Spartacus, the bathhouse. And the best part was he said, hey, let's make a real plan and we'll meet up tonight at 10 p.m. at Mr. Flamingo and you can meet all of our local friends there. And we did. And I danced with him. We did a lot of making out. We did a lot of heavy petting. But it ended there. And honestly, that was almost enough for me. Except the next day, he texted me and I had a double date with him and his husband and me and my husband. And we went to dinner and then we went for drinks and then another bar and then another bar and then another bar. And at the end of the night, it was just me and him. And we wound up at Spartacus. And he got a room and he fucked me. And then he asked me, hey, do you mind if I fuck you with the door open? And I said, sure. And since he was a local, he knew a lot of the hot tops that kept walking by. And when one top walked by that he liked, he would whistle at them and he would allow them to take a turn on me. But all the while, even when the other tops were fucking me, he was making out with me. And that went on for an hour or two. And when there was a shortage of hot tops walking by, he would take me for a spin around Spartacus and find other hot tops that he would tap and let them fuck me. And at the end of the night, he said, "It's time for me to fuck you again." And he took me back to the room that he rented, and he shut the door and locked it. And he fucked me, and he came in me, and we made out for a long time. And it was a very, very hot night. We're still friends today, and it turned out to be a really hot, long lead, but very hot Grindr connection.
Hookup of the week. Speechless.
Speechless. Oh my gosh.
Me
First of all,
quedo sin palabras.
yeah, you're a very good storyteller. And oh my God, what a dream come true. Like every part of it. Oh my gosh. What's my favorite part? They're all my favorite parts. I obviously love that, the divine intervention of it all, of him being at the airport and how lovely and gracious he was to bring you into his world so immediately. And I love how just the validation of dancing with him and making out with him and the heavy petting would have been enough for you. In Judaism, we say dayenu. It would have been enough for us. I pass over. But then the fact that it evolved into not only exactly what you wanted, but even more, with him becoming this like dom daddy offering you up to others. I mean, the second you said he opened the door, Judson and I, both of our jaws just were like, we just gasped.
It's on the
so
my
hot.
beard is brushing the table. I was like,
so
that's
hot.
And having just come from gay vacation, and
Yes.
we've talked a lot about this on the show, there is something really magical about gay vacation in that the pretense kind of drops. We're all there to have fun. Meeting each other seems easier. Sex seems easier. It's just, this story really captures what it is like to travel with and around men, like other men who have sex with men. Like it's really, really, really lovely. And what we'll get into when you get back and what I'll cover is like, so much of what I enjoyed about in P-Town was actually the socializing.
Yeah.
Like not necessarily the fucking, just like the meeting people, getting to know people, just how fucking friendly. Like you can't just walk up to someone on the streets of Brooklyn and be like, "Hey, babe." I mean, I guess you could.
You could. You do.
I do.
But yes.
I'm an outlier, but
in so many ways.
In these vacation spots, like that's just how it rolls. And I feel so lucky to be a gay person in those spaces because I've gone on what we can call a straight vacation, and straight people do not talk to each other.
Right.
At all.
Will you please DM us and tell us what the proper massage recommendation was? I mean, not by proper, I don't mean
the massage or the massage.
No, the second one. Because they're everywhere there, and you don't know which one is the right one to go to. And I went for what I thought would be a great massage, and it was a great massage, but it was not a great massage. And I want, if I'm in Puerto Vallarta, I can get the first kind of massage in New York City.
Yes,
I want a Puerto Vallarta massage, and also make sure that your top in the office building across the street from you is a listener of our podcast, please. Because I want my butt is envious of your butt.
I also want his take.
Oh yeah,
that would be. That would be incredible.
Yes.
Like, I met this guy on Grindr a year later. Also, to the credit of the gentleman who submit this, I am quick to abandon ship online. Like, I give things like 90 days tops.
Yeah.
So very good on ya for playing the long game.
I will say, I may or may not have a hookup later tonight with somebody on Grindr who he and I have been like trying to make something happen. Well, no, I've been trying to make something happen, and he's always been like sweet, but for at least a year and a half. And he was just all of a sudden, like, looked at my profile today and while I was on, and I like immediately went back and I was like, I have a lot more freedom these next few weeks because my kids are away at camp. And so, yeah, I mean, on the one hand, I like your philosophy of like, give it up because like sometimes the unrequited thing on an app is just not worth it.
I also am like, you know this about me. I'm like crystal woo-woo karmic cleanse.
Yeah.
Like I need to get rid of that energy
Right.
so I can welcome something new into my life.
Right. But maybe there's something new can be something old sometimes. Or something long-standing.
Wow.
Speaking of, I was also on the apps today, and I was literally about to walk out the door and go to this person's place. But when he sent the address, I put it in Google Maps just to see how long it would take me to get there. And you know how Google Maps indicates like if you've already been to that address, like it shows like a clock, like, oh, you're returning to this thing you've been to before?
I did not know that it did that.
Yeah. So it had that icon, and I was like, oh, I've either hooked up with this person before or I've hooked up with somebody in his building before. And I looked at his picture again and I thought, I don't really recognize this person, but it could be. And there's somebody in like particular I was thinking it could be. And so I asked him his name. I'm now better. I now keep track of addresses, but I used to just keep track of names and like areas. And so I asked him his name, and he had an unusual name. And I looked through my list, and in December of 2024, I had hooked up with him, and I'm pretty sure it was the same person who I thought, like, this does not need to be a repeat. So I ended up
Thank you for getting me hip to the clock.
Yeah,
on
I'll
Google.
show you.
I had no idea. That has actually happened to me before.
Yeah.
I showed up at the same address and was like, I don't want to fucking be here.
You're right.
No.
Yeah. I hope he's not a listener. Anyway, thank you so much for submitting that. I really enjoyed that. And also what I'm doing lately is not listening to these before I play them for you.
Oh, so they're also a surprise to you.
Which is a surprise for me
Good.
too, which is kind of a risk, but that was really fun. Thank you so much for submitting that. Please, folks, continue to send in your hookups of the week. Record them on your voice memo or voice recorder app, depending on your platform, and then email it to us at dadsanddaddies@gmail.com. Please, please, please do that also for Go Ask Your Dad questions. We are in actually kind of dire need for more Go Ask Your Dads. All right, well, we are going to take a break, and then when we come back, we will have Jack Harrison-Quintana, co-author of Kink, For Dummies, but also, by the way, when I read his bio, he is so much more than the co-author of Kink, For Dummies. It's kind of insanely impressive.
The guests are always so much more.
No, I know, but this is super impressive. So I can't wait for him to get here, and we'll be right back.
See you in a minute. Hey, listeners, welcome back to Dads and Daddies. We have a very warm welcome all the way from our nation's beautiful capital, Washington, D.C., Jack Harrison-Quintana. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Our pleasure.
We are so thrilled to have you. Jack Harrison-Quintana is a queer Latino activist, author, and researcher. His work at the intersection of digital advocacy and LGBTQ justice has earned him recognition as one of Foreign Policy Magazine's top geopolitical thinkers of 2016, as well as Fast Company's most creative people in business. Over the course of his career, Jack has worked with the National LGBTQ Task Force, the National Center for Transgender Equality, the Global Trans Research and Advocacy Project, Grindr for Equality, and Camara, as well as 5 state and local LGBTQ-related ballot measure campaigns. Jack has spoken in over a quarter of the world's countries. He is presented to the National HIV Prevention Conference, International AIDS Conference, ILGA World, and Creating Change. He's also briefed the U.S. House of Representatives, the U.S. Senate, the United Nations, and members of the British Parliament, the Norwegian Storting
Got?
Okay, thanks. And the Hong Kong Legislative Council. He has co-authored 3 books. Outing Age 2010, Public Policy Issues Affecting Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, and Transgender Elders. Injustice at Every Turn, a report of the National Transgender Discrimination Survey. And of course, Kink, For Dummies, which is what we are so excited to talk about today. He has contributed chapters to 2 additional books, Bodies and Barriers, Queer Activists on Health, and Friendship as Social Justice Activism, Critical Solidarities in a Global Perspective. His peer-reviewed articles have appeared in the Harvard Kennedy School Journal of LGBTQ Policy Studies, Transgender Studies Quarterly, Sexual Health, JADS, the Journal of Acquired Immune Deficiency Syndromes, and HIV Medicine. A native of Signal Mountain, Tennessee, Jack earned both his BS in International Studies and his MA in Communication, Culture, and Technology from Georgetown University. His education has also included Yonsei University in Seoul, South Korea, and the Rockwood Leadership Institute. So he's smart.
Thank you so much.
Wow. We're so honored that you would deign to appear on Dads and Daddies, Jack.
Oh, not at all. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, welcome. So when we first connected, it was obviously about Kink for Dummies. But you're so much more than that. So we want to get to Kink for Dummies, rather in short order, but do you want to just give us a brief synopsis of how you came to be who you are?
Sure, I can.
Yeah.
Well, I'm from Signal Mountain, Tennessee.
Yes.
And at the base of Signal Mountain is a Japanese factory for a corporation called Komatsu that makes earth movers and dump trucks. Okay. And because of them, we had Japanese at my school. And they had a contest every year for kids to say, like, I would like to go to Japan in an essay. And I won when I was 15. And I went to Japan for a good long time and stayed with the family. And I think that is my superhero origin story.
Oh, wow.
It kind of broke me open to other cultures.
Yeah.
And
because you weren't getting that in Tennessee?
Well, I'm half Latino. So in my household, actually, we were sort of representing some different cultures. But no, it was not the most diverse place in the country.
Yeah.
But that, I think, set me on my path to now sort of having done LGBTQ activism around the world, and all the things that I've done, I think, is really about that initial scholarship from that factory.
Wow.
I am floored that was the opportunity in Signal Mountain, Tennessee, which I don't know anything about. I'm just picturing it in my head on a map, and it seems like it might not have a ton going on.
Well, you might be surprised. It's not so far from, I don't know, civilization. Like Chattanooga, Tennessee is
I know that one.
Close. Okay, so that was like where I went to school, where my parents worked, etc. So it wasn't so far outside of a small city. And yeah, I don't know. There was plenty going on, I guess. Not so much that I want to live there now.
Oh, yeah. No, I only say that as someone who just recently visited their hometown and just like, wow. Couldn't do it now. I grew up in Toledo, Ohio.
Okay. Huh.
Exactly.
I guess I know about as much about Toledo as you do about Chattanooga, probably.
So Kink for Dummies.
Yeah.
When I think of a For Dummies book, I think of like Microsoft Windows for Dummies.
IT.
Or investing for dummies.
Totally.
And I want our listeners to know this is a genuine For Dummies book. This is the black and yellow book that we all recognize. This is put out by the For Dummies people.
Yeah. And I get that question a lot, actually. I think people think maybe
it's a parody, right? No, it's an actual For Dummies book. So I guess my two questions to kick off are, how did you convince the For Dummies folks to write a book about kink? And also what the origin story is of, like, how did you connect with your co-author, Jaime?
Oh, sure. Well, that is two totally different questions.
Okay.
So Jaime is my best friend.
Okay.
We've been working together for about 15 years. I started as her intern at the National LGBTQ Task Force.
Okay.
And we were initially working in a department at the task force that was doing kind of national level research on LGBTQ experiences. And let's see, I was an intern for someone else, but it became clear to me that Jaime was my people.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
This forcefully sex-positive woman is so interesting and so my people that I sort of stalked her. Not really, but like I sort of made myself available to her. And then I was like, we should go to lunch. She was like, totally, but she canceled on me 6 times, but I sort of doggedly pursued, which maybe is a theme in my life.
Yeah.
And eventually I got her to hire me, and we've worked together ever since. And really the connection is that in addition to doing kind of the other parts of LGBTQ activism, we're both really committed to the sex positive strain of LGBTQ work.
Right. And so, well, 2 questions. So because it is a For Dummies book and is written at kind of a I don't want to say impersonal level, but it's not your memoir. It is.
No.
So what we don't entirely get is like, what is your kink origin story?
My kink origin story. Okay, sure.
But then again, like, I'm so curious how you go to the For Dummies people and say you need a Kink for Dummies book.
Well,
I keep asking 2 totally different questions at once.
No problem. I love them
I'm very
both.
skilled at this.
Well, I'll tell you what happened, how we got connected to Wiley Publishing.
Yes.
Which it wasn't really like we went to them and asked to do this.
They were out seeking a Kink for Dummies?
Well, Jamie made a connection in the erotic fan fiction world, which is, maybe not how you imagine these stories starting, but she's really involved in BTS fandom, the K-pop band.
Yes, I'm aware of who BTS is.
Okay, well, she met someone through there who also wrote for Wiley and who was like, you should be writing For Dummies books. Like, you're so smart. You have so much sort of topic knowledge on different areas. You should be writing for them. And of course, she and I from the sidelines were like, well, sure, we would love to, but that's not going to happen. Like, that's a fantasy.
Right.
But they really wanted someone to write polyamory for dummies specifically. Okay. They really felt like that was a topic that was bubbling up in the culture, which I think is true.
Yes.
And they were like, we need to find someone to write that. And once this connection had been made, they realized Jamie could do it. And so she wrote Polyamory for Dummies, and I was the topic editor on that book.
What does it mean to be a topic editor?
It means that, actually what I was sort of credited as is the technical editor, but I really think that sounds like you're doing the grammar.
Right.
So I was another content expert who gave her feedback on the content.
Right. Okay.
Basically. And that went really well. That book is out. And then they were kind of like, well, what else could you do? And we came up with a couple options. And they have been trying to expand this kind of sex and sexuality area for the series. So they also did gender transition for dummies.
Amazing.
Which we met those authors. They're great. There's also now sexual pleasure for dummies. So they were kind of moving into this world. And, really, they have more books than you think and more topics.
Sure. I'm sure.
Well,
clearly, if they have Kink for Dummies,
totally.
I mean,
when we got the first gig, I read like 10 For Dummies books. So I read like Irish history for dummies. I read Japanese language for dummies. They have a ton of different areas. Bollywood for dummies, which was really fun. And they wanted to expand this area. And once we had done polyamory, I think, they felt like, I'm projecting, but I think they felt like, well, this was fine. This was good. We had a good working relationship. We like these people. So let's keep going and do Kink. And I got brought on as a co-author instead of as an editor.
I'm so impressed. What is Wiley?
Wiley. Mm-hmm.
And so, okay, your kink origin story.
Oh, my kink origin story. Okay, there is a funny story in the book, which you probably will recognize when I say it. Which is that when I was a teenager, I was a LiveJournal user.
Mm-hmm.
And not every post was completely public. Some was just like other people who I was friends with. And I think this post was friends only.
Mm-hmm.
And I made a long list of my kinks and fetishes. And all of my friends from our high schools were like, what are you talking about? Like, you maybe haven't even had sex at all, which I don't think I had at that point.
Right.
And they were like, well, how could you possibly know? And I was kind of like, well, how could you possibly not know? Like, these are the things I'm thinking about.
Right.
And these are the things I'm, jacking off to, and like the porn I'm searching for and the erotic stories I'm searching for. So I'm confused that you couldn't get in touch with that.
Right.
And I honestly think that was the first time that I started sort of leading community conversations about kink. And I just kept doing it really like ad hoc when I was a young person. And then once I met Jamie and got involved with the LGBTQ movement, it became clear how to kind of get that going professionally.
Okay.
Which do you think you identified first, or maybe simultaneously? Like the kink of it all or the queerness of it all?
I knew that I was gay, like first memories kind of thing. I don't think I fully understood that I was kinky yet.
Mm-hmm.
Although I think that there are probably some clues in my childhood. I think a lot of people, I'm a bondage sub, among other things. And I think that there are a lot of people like me who, like, when they look back, it's like, oh, remember I liked to be, I don't know, tied up playing games.
Mm-hmm.
Or, I liked to put the weighted blanket over me and I felt safe. So I have some of those, right? But I think, I was pretty clear that I was gay very, very early on. And then by sometime around the time that I was really getting sexual, I was like, well, I'm definitely also kinky.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was fine.
I certainly wasn't having like those realizations like at that age. I feel like I knew the gay part very early, even like missing the vocabulary for it because it was the 90s after all.
Mm-hmm.
But the kink of it all came way later.
Like when? Like
I would say
mid-20s?
It's difficult for me because I'm sober. I'm in 12-step recovery. And there were things that I would do to score. I would do anything for drugs.
Interesting.
And I confused that with my own desire in kink.
Sure.
So it wasn't until I got sober and got my head straight that I was like, oh, here are the things that I'm actually into and want to willingly and voluntarily participate in because they are bringing me or another person pleasure and they don't have crystal meth at the end of that rainbow.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So it's like new and old.
Yeah.
But I would say like clear-headed desire the last like 5 or 7 years.
Mm-hmm. And were there kinks that really appealed to you when you were high that don't anymore?
Yeah, or I'm on the opposite side of it. Like I was very sub when I was using, and I am much more dominant now, sort of as like a claim to power.
Yeah.
While also understanding that there is a lot of power in being a sub.
Sure, of course. No, but that's super interesting. I think that I mean, obviously it's a sensitive area, but I think that what drugs do to people's kink desires is fairly interesting. Because it does seem like there's a lot of people who experience just quite different desires when they're altered.
So one of the many things that I love about the book is that it really felt to me like it was trying to free people, right? To find their own way and to find what really feels good to them and is meaningful to them. But what I've found interesting within that is that you do have some hard and fast rules in there that you are very clear about. And one of them is that drugs and kink do not mix.
Yeah, I think that's right.
No, I think it's great.
But I also think that individual people get to make their own decisions, right? I mean, I think that's in there too,
right? But every now and again, there's like an unequivocal statement, and which I thought was great. I mean, and like one of them was, being dishonest while engaging in kink scenes and building kink relationships is dangerous for you and your partner.
Yes, right.
And another one is don't use silk scarves.
Sure. Yes, totally. Right.
No, but I think that's
certain
great.
Kinds of wax.
Yes,
right.
yeah.
When I think about like mixing drugs and sex, or drugs and kink, it's like, what is the kink, right? And like, how intense is it for you? There's a lot of kinks that I feel 100% that's right.
Yeah.
It's like, it's probably never a good idea to do this while truly altered. But I also think that there could be certain kinds of dirty talk, let's say, or there's some light kink that maybe people who are a little bit altered probably can do safely. I don't think that's the party line. I don't think that's what to put in print.
Sure. Certainly not in a For Dummies book.
Well, right. One interesting thing about writing the book was figuring out where Wiley's lines were going to be. Because I do think that we talk about these topics a little bit differently under their imprint than we would just person to person, right?
Sure.
Like, we might use more explicit terminology.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we had to make we had to make edits like using the word aroused instead of wet or hard.
Right.
So it does change the voice a little bit. And of course, I'm happy to have produced something that ideally just anyone could read.
Yeah. It was so funny because you're coming on this podcast. I don't know why it didn't occur to me before I started reading that, like, oh, this book is for everyone, not just gay people, not just queer people.
I know. Well, I have to say that was another thing that we really struggled with. I think it's fair to say
as two queer people writing the book.
Yes, and who have primarily done our kind of kink positive workshops for big groups of LGBTQ people.
Mm-hmm.
Like the place where we do it every year that's like the flagship kind of site is Creating Change,
mm-hmm.
which is the biggest LGBTQ activist conference every year. So we're used to, and of course there's straight people in the room, but like most,
but they're not the target.
No,
right.
And they're not the majority.
Right.
So we really had to think about, like, let's get some stories in here from straight people.
Yes.
Like, let's reference some straight authors.
Yes.
Like, well, it was a real process to decenter our, gay perspective. And of course, I think that straight people benefit from our gay perspective. So we don't throw it all out, but
100%.
Right.
Well, it's such an interesting reverse, right? Because oftentimes you'll read something that is like by straight people for straight people, but they also want to capture a broader audience. And you're like, honey, you didn't do the research. That is not how we talk or act, but thank you for throwing a rainbow on it.
Totally.
But speaking of both of your kink discoveries of yourself, I found I learned so much about myself reading this book, because I am not someone, listen, I'm as sex positive, I think, as they come. And I love sex, and but I just don't think of myself as a kinkster.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
And certainly I've tried like kink. I was telling Judson in our opening segment about a recent night where I tried some kink with my husband because he had a hookup that inspired me to try some stuff with him. And what our final resolution was out of the evening, while it was fun, is that what I can bring him that others can't is husband sex, and we have really good husband sex. But what I found so interesting is I'm really into group sex. I'm really into public sex. I love the idea of, I love watching him with somebody else. I learned the term hot wifing from your book.
I was gonna say that.
But what I was so into, and I'm really into those things. Like, I go to sex parties often. And when I say public, I mean dick docks and meat racks and sex parties. I'm not going to park in front of my house.
The Target at DeKalb.
No, I'm not talking about that. But I was so fascinated that all of those things came under the heading of, that came under dominant DS, right?
Oh,
the group, when you talk about group sex,
I don't think of it as DS, but it is in that chapter somewhere.
It's under, like, when you're talking about, first you're talking about
it's BD,
BD, DS, and then SM, and like,
and then the chapter cascades into other kinks.
Yes, but this is before it does that. I promise you.
Okay, well,
and
I mean, you could do any of those things in a group setting, right?
Right. But I mean, but the more I thought about it, I was like, no, I guess there is some kind of like submissiveness in terms of like giving up that power into the group. And like, and it just made me think like, oh, am I a kinkster? And I didn't, because I mean, those are the things that turn me on the most.
Well, the way we define kink is anything that has an amplifying effect on your arousal.
Yes.
So it does sound like being in a big group has an amplifying effect for you, right?
Yes.
So I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Although I think there's probably other people who enjoy group sex, but it's more, it may not have an amplifying effect. Like, it may just be like convenience.
Right.
Everyone's in the same place.
Right, right.
Move through a bunch of people.
Right.
But maybe that isn't amplified compared to just having those people show up at your apartment in order.
Right.
But it sounds like for you it is.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Mm.
The amplification too, because I mean, it could be for different reasons. I think of it in the same way that I think of daddiness, in that it is not bestowed. It has to be claimed. Like, no one gets to tell you how kinky or not kinky you are,
Right.
as long as you're aware of the amplification and then pursue the partners who can help you engage with
Right.
that. So which is why I appreciated the book so much, because I thought of myself going into it as like pretty, just kind of like a basic ass slut. Like, I just like to fuck. And then once I understood sort of like the mentality and the activation, I was like, oh, I am a kinky guy and no one can tell me otherwise. And that felt so good. It felt really nice to sort of claim for myself, even if it's just a few areas in which I seek that sort of amplification, which for me specifically are just like pain, daddiness, and group sex.
Yeah.
But that's enough for me. I don't have to be into all of it. I can just go out and find the people who like that too.
So, two things. I've always felt a little left out. So I'm happy to be able to now, having read your book, like being able to claim that, no, I'm a kinkster and my kinks are group sex, public sex, and hot wifing. But the other thing is that what got me thinking is, have I never thought about it as a kink because there's not a whole lot of judgment anymore within our community about sex parties and dick docks and meat racks and stuff like that, the rambles. And so I've never really felt shame around it. If anything, I've always felt proud of myself for being able to thrive in those environments. So because they're no longer as judged as maybe they once were, does that make them less of a kink? Does like the shame or the judgment, is that a necessary part of something being a kink?
I think that's so interesting. I don't think it's a necessary part, but I think it helps.
Right.
I think that it really you know?
Yes, preach. That's great.
I sometimes think about, in my little community of like bears, let's say, like there are certain things that if straight people did it, they'd be like, that is super kinky.
Yes.
But when we do it, it's like, it's kind of like a Tuesday.
Right. Well, was it you or was it a guest who said, Toby reminded me of this today as we were talking about this, that any sex as not procreative is thought, at least by a percentage of the straight community, to be kinky by definition.
That was me paraphrasing Dr. Israel Martinez.
Oh, okay.
So I think that was a thought that he had on the show and that I repeated later on.
Right.
That as queer people, because we are not fucking in order to have children, that is expressly kinky because it's just about pleasure.
Right. And so then that leads to, well, for us to have group sex, like whatever. But yes, if straight people were doing it, then that would be really kinky.
Even like water sports, I think, like,
right.
Like, I think that's obviously a kink.
Sure.
And I think that a lot of guys who I know engage in it occasionally in a way that's like just not that serious.
Right.
And it doesn't necessarily change their perception of themselves. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to mean anything.
Right.
But if straight people did that, or anal sex, right? Like, I feel like when straight people talk about anal sex, that's kinky.
Right.
And of course, for us, it's like, oh,
bread and butter. I mean, I wouldn't survive without it. Right. That's so funny.
I'll tell you one funny thing now that you mentioned, like, you don't have to be into all of it to be a kinkster. I think that since writing this book, more guys have come at me with some, whatever desires they've been wanting to explore that they never have, which actually I love.
Yeah.
But it does mean that I get approached with all kinds of assumptions like, oh, he's going to be able to.
That you will do these things. That you will perform these things.
Like that I will string people up, by hooks.
Oh my God. That section was very hard for me to read only because like, the most pain I can take, and I love being spanked. Well, if I'm bottoming, if you are topping me, please spank me. But that's the most pain I can take. And the section about pain and some of the stuff, it was very hard for me to read. No judgment there, but just like hard, like physically for me to take. Imagine those sensations. Yeah.
You feel it in your body.
Yeah.
Which is why I liked it. It actually there was a portion in the pain section that reminded me of, this is so random. My husband and I went to Sri Lanka in March of 2025.
Okay.
And there was this was not happening, but in some of our research, we saw this like festival that happens in the north where these guys do get strung up by like multiple, like 20 hooks. And like, that's just, I remember seeing that on a documentary and then also just like feeling it while I read this book. And I was like, maybe one, but like 20 seems, it would be hard for me to physically bear.
Well, not to get too deep into this one particular thing that I don't actually do, but to my understanding is that when you pierce the skin so light, like so close to the surface, it actually doesn't really hurt.
Right.
And then when you're suspended, what's really happening is like blood flow and like strange sensations that's not primarily about pain. Which is interesting. You wouldn't think that.
I want to get back to what people are asking you to do.
Okay.
What are people asking you to do?
That's one thing. I have been asked to string someone up. And I was like, I really don't know how to do that. And it wouldn't do anything for me.
Right.
But no, I mean, there actually is a point in the book where I say, I don't know if you remember that we did our 10 commandments, our Kink 10 commandments for ourselves, which I think, Jamie was raised Catholic. And I think for her, it feels very kinky to reclaim
Frame it that way.
that. For me, it kind of means nothing, but it was a fun exercise. And one of the 10 commandments is like, tell me what you fantasize about. Like, I want to know what the thing is that you've always wanted to try that you've never tried. And, maybe I will have no interest in it.
Right.
But I do want to know. And there have been many readers who have taken that to heart and have, told me what they want to do. And some of it is great. Some of it, and by great, I mean some of it is very much overlaps with what I like.
Yeah.
And
Has any of it unlocked anything new for you?
No. I'm not proud of this, but I have to say, like, new things don't get unlocked for me very often.
Okay.
I feel like I've been around the block.
Sure.
I sort of know what appeals. And that doesn't mean that it doesn't change over time.
Sure.
But it doesn't happen often. When it does, it's very exciting.
Yeah.
But that doesn't happen a lot.
So back to the pain for a moment, one thing, so you keep talking through the book about how like pain brings the people who seek it out and enjoy it like to this kind of like relaxed place where they can like let go of everything. And what it reminded me of, and this is not, I promise, a commercial, is Judson and I both use these acupressure mats, these Shakti mats that kind of like replicate an Iron Maiden.
Yeah.
And we do have a 10% discount, Dads and Daddies on shaktimat.com, but this is not a commercial. No, but that was like, that I get. Because the first time I laid down on a Shakti mat for 20 minutes, I thought, I'm never going to be able to do this. And is there some pain? Yes. But did I then start to like yearn for it and like crave it and seek it out? And does it relax me in a way that nothing else can? And we had a guest on recently who was talking about anxiety. And I said, like, do the Shakti mat because what the pain does is like it forces you not to think about anything else.
Yes.
I'm an escapist, right? It's why I used for such a long time.
Yeah.
And I had this experience recently where I was putting in a dimmer switch in our living room and I accidentally electrocuted myself on 3 separate occasions.
Oh my God.
Because I don't really know how to wire shit, but I would like wanted to prove to myself that I could. And in each of those instances, I was like, unlocked.
Yeah.
Unlocked. Like where my brain and body were able to go through that physical shock. I'm not telling you to go stick your finger in a dimmer switch, but
don't.
Please don't do that.
Don't do that. But that sort of like pain and that sort of like electricity play, like with the wand, sort of opened that up for me. So it's great.
Then you've gotten a TENS unit, or you've gotten attached to a TENS unit since then?
I don't have it, but I seek the men who do.
Wait, a what?
A TENS unit. I think TENS is an acronym.
Okay.
And I don't know for what, but it's it looks like a little amp.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And you can, hook it to yourself and it sends, electricity.
Or there's wands,
Yeah, or
too.
there's wands. You
It's
can
a
actually
transcutaneous electrical nerve stimulation.
cutaneous. Okay.
Yeah, like through the skin.
No, I didn't know that we'd get to cutaneous today.
Well, we almost did when you were talking about the needles going just under your skin. We could have said, could have brought it up then.
That's right. Well, you can actually use TENS units to deal with back pain.
Yeah, that's how it came up on Amazon. Yeah.
Yeah, but you can also use it for
kink.
Yeah.
I love that. We were also talking in our first segment about, I mentioned how much I felt I learned about myself reading Kink for Dummies. And what did you say? That the only other book that I think you were.
Oh, I was kidding. I was like,
funny,
the only other book of self-discovery for me was the 12 and 12 Steps in 12 Tradition.
But the reason I want to bring that up again is we recently had a guest on the podcast who talked about, she goes to Al-Anon meetings, and she talked about how she feels 12-step is a guidebook for life, regardless of who you are. And I kind of felt very much that way about kink, because the things you talk about that are so important in the kink community are, communication, trust, consent, expectation setting, transparency. And it feels like these are all things we should be practicing in all aspects of our lives. That if we talk about all the time how important it is to set expectations, how important it is to communicate, how important it is to build trust, transparency, all of these things. And so the more I was reading this, I was like, yes, this is very of the utmost importance for kink, but there's so much that anybody could learn from being a kinkster and how you build these relationships.
No, I totally agree. I mean, I actually think that one of the most interesting chapters is dealing with relationship problems in a kink context, because you could get stuff from there to use in any relationship,
right?
Regardless of it's sexual, it's kinky, anything.
Because the stakes in a relationship are high regardless. I mean, I think the reason we say this about kink is because the stakes are so obviously high.
Yeah.
But yes, even if you're not a kinkster, pick up Kink for Dummies and learn some stuff about how you can better your relationship.
No, I mean, I think that's actually true. And I think that when we've done kind of talks about the book, we've often focused on that chapter a little bit because people respond really strongly to it. And I think some of their response is really totally outside of kink. It's the jealousy, the stuff around jealousy and dealing with jealousy just, made me think about any number of things totally outside of the sexual realm. But I think that's totally right. And it is true, of course, that the stakes are extremely high when you're doing certain kinks, but a lot of this stuff is just broadly applicable.
Yeah.
And it could be just non-kinky sex too, right?
100%.
What I was curious, it is addressed, but for our listeners, one of the questions that we get very frequently, sort of framed in different ways, but the underlying question is the same, and Go Ask Your Dad, is I want to pursue openness, but my partner doesn't.
Yeah.
How can we help people from a kink frame of reference? Especially if they're in a monogamous relationship and one partner wants to explore kink and then the other partner wants to have nothing to do with it, either because they have and it wasn't for them, or they maybe don't know enough about it to even understand their partner's interest.
Yeah.
How do we address that disconnect for people?
I think it's a really interesting question. And, Jamie is a sex coach, among other things. And I think she also gets this question. I think possibly more than any other question is either one of us wants to be open and one of us doesn't, or other kinds of asymmetrical desires, like one person wants kink, or just one person has sort of a turbocharged libido compared to the other one. Right?
We hear that a ton too. I just want to have a lot of sex. My partner is chill.
There are some exercises in the book for working through that with your partner. I think that one interesting thing that I had conversations with people about when we were writing the book was people who came to the conclusion, and of course I don't think that everyone would come to this conclusion, but people who came to the conclusion that letting their partner engage in some kink with other people actually wasn't sex and didn't constitute breaking monogamy. So there's a spanking party in DC that happens in a bar where you're really, you're not allowed to be naked. You're not allowed to like touch each other's genitals, but you are allowed to, have like exposed butt and spanking. And I talked to a couple who felt like ultimately that was not sex.
Right.
Which I think is, sure. I think it could be or it couldn't be, depending on how you feel.
Right.
But I think the idea that it's within bounds for monogamy and it really worked for them. Like the person got their kink satisfaction and the other person was able to still feel like this was all contained in a comfortable way. And I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah. I was fascinated in the book how many examples of kink didn't feel to me sexual at all.
Yeah. Right. But, I think for me personally, I think that all of those things are sex. Like, I think even the people who just want to like rub balloons between their chests and pop them, it's like, to me, that could be sex. But
like in the dominant submission section, like somebody who's like taking on tasks for somebody else.
Oh God, I love that part.
Yeah.
Yes. I think that one is such an interesting,
Yeah.
I hope that it's interesting for people because I think more people should be doing acts of service as kink.
We'll talk about that a little bit more.
That.
Like, explain to our listeners what we're talking about.
Well, I would say for me personally, there is a really good friend of ours who has stories in the book who kind of taught me this when I was early in my 20s because she was a really big part of her kind of service orientation that she would do things like plan a friend's vacation and say like, this day one, you're going to do this tourism activity and then you're going to hang out at the hotel. And day two, and she would do all the research and that was like kind of her gift. And she really saw it as part of her kink. And it totally blew my mind because, of course, you could do acts of service for someone, but I've never thought about it in that context, that it could give you a satisfaction that is something like what you get from being spanked or what you like from exercising a different kink. And I think that there are a lot of people who have that desire to either give or receive in that way. And that when you can frame it as when you can frame it that the giver is enjoying it and is getting the kink satisfaction, it's like a little bit, to me, it's easier to understand. Because otherwise it's like, why is the person doing it?
I wonder if you just unlocked something for me. Like if somebody tells me that they are coming to New York and want to see theater.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I've never thought of it in a like I drop everything that I'm doing and I become elated to like
totally
give them recommendations. If somebody
Theater
tells
recs
me
are your kink.
Going to Disneyland and will ask me to help them plan it again, like there's a family in the neighborhood who are not doms to Toby and me in a way. And we're going to Disneyland, and I brought over books and notebooks and computers and went to their house on 2 different occasions to help them plan this trip. And I got such elation out of that. And I wonder, now that we've just had this conversation here live, you're all hearing this first, like, if I just psychologically now link it to, like, if I recognize in myself that I'm getting such pleasure out of it, if I'm a kink in that way, a kinkster in that way.
Right. Well, are you service-oriented in the bedroom? Is that okay to ask?
Yes, you can ask me anything.
Okay.
Yes, I think so. Yes.
And does it feel related? I mean,
I hadn't thought of it, but that's what I'm saying right now. Is like maybe if I start to realize that like the elation I get, the high that I get, because it is a high for me. It's a different kind of high, but like, yes, I love giving my husband like a long blowjob. I love, he loves to be topped by me, and I love topping him in a way that I know is going to get the response from him afterwards that like he love that. So yes. Wow. Did I just understand this part of the book without?
Wow. Well, it's also, our listeners will not be shocked. Like we talk all the time, or I talk all the time about daddy as an act of service. Because for so long, it's been framed as like dom top, dom top, dom top. He's 55, the boy is 25, like that's daddy's son. And for us, like the definition is just so much more ample that you can be of service from any angle. Like if the person wants to top you, you are being of service by being their bottom. Like I love being of service and found it very easy to relate to what you were saying in the book because you can do it in all sorts of ways.
Yeah.
My relationship with service is only not complicated, but complex in that oftentimes when I have to approach something I don't want to do, where like the pleasure is not amplified, completely removed from a sexual scenario or romantic scenario, I have to frame it as service to get through it.
Oh, but it works if you do that. It works for you better if you frame it.
It
that way.
works way better for me. Like a really good example removed from like the sexual sphere of it all is interacting with my biological family. I have to treat seeing them, spending time with them, interacting with them, doing really anything for them other than my younger brother, who is a very good friend of mine, as an act of service to like get through it. So that's kind of removed from the kink of it all. But the service component is like the lens through which I see all of these things.
I think what's fun too that can bring that back into the sexual realm is like if you have someone with whom you're doing some kind of exchange, right? And you're kind of doing whatever act of service for them, you know, perhaps that person then sees that as a mark on that side of the balance, such that when you're then in the bedroom, they give back in some way, right? Like you're kind of including that in the rubric of what's going on between you.
Interesting. I'm not having sex with this straight couple who's I planned New Zealand trip for, but that's interesting.
Well, right. That's right. You could do it completely outside
I'm
of
just
that,
teasing.
but no.
I'm going to force us to take a break because we have 2 more segments to get through. But before we do, I did just want to read 2 quotes from the book.
Oh.
There's so many quotes about the book that I love, but to me, these are the overarching, and I hope you'll agree with me. The first one is very brief, which is, it's okay to want what you want.
Yeah, totally.
And then there's a kind of like more in-depth version of that, which I just think is important for everybody to hear. It's from the beginning, which is a very good reason to bring your kinks into the light, to name them and consider them in community, is to grow your self-esteem and your sexual and intimate health. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be intimate in ways that are out of the ordinary to some people.
Totally.
Gorgeous.
So we're just going to end this segment with that. We'll be right back, and we will ask Jack all about his daddy issue.
Oh, great.
Hey, listeners, welcome back to Dads and Daddies, the podcast. Jack, we have a question for you. Ready?
Yeah.
Listo? What is your daddy issue?
Well, the daddy issue that I wanted to bring to the table for discussion is about erectile dysfunction medication.
Great.
Say more.
Well, I think that, you know, at very base, it's fairly simple. I feel like if you need it, consider using it.
Yes.
Right? And if you have shame about using it, consider trying to throw that off. And I think for me, I think I started to need it earlier than possibly average.
Okay.
Partially because I also take anti-anxiety medication. That has an impact.
You're in good company.
Yeah, we're all
at this table, we're all medicated.
And in our community, I think it's a fairly common experience.
Yes.
And I do think that, you know, there's a part of me that's like, I'm a professional sexpert.
Yeah. I feel the same way.
A professional kinkster. And then, you know, you start to get to an age or a medication situation where things don't happen like they used to. And you know, I mean, it's funny, actually, my husband, when I was talking to him about what I'm going to bring up for my daddy issue, he was like, well, do you think anyone that still has stigma about taking Viagra or whatever?
I think people have stigma about all these things.
Everything. Every single thing.
That's what I thought too. And I was like, well, let me just share that even I, in the sort of mega sex world that I'm in, use it and have had a great experience.
Yeah.
Now, I will say that you have to be careful about poppers.
Yes.
Yes.
And I will share a short story about that, which is like, obviously it's easy to say like, just be careful. But my story of this going wrong is that I thought to myself once, you can have one sniff of poppers, even though you've had a little bit of Viagra earlier in the day. And as a result, my nose started running for like about 24 hours. It was very annoying. It wouldn't stop. And that happened to be the day that I was going to the Madonna Celebration tour. And at the end of the concert, my husband was like, that was so amazing. I can't believe how good that was. He's not as big a Madonna fan as me. He was like so impressed. And I was like, I really enjoyed it. I would have enjoyed it more if I hadn't mixed poppers and Viagra earlier in the day and had my nose running out of control. So now, whenever I consider doing this, I think like, no. This had a real, a specific, important impact, and I'm not going to do it.
But the seriousness of the matter is that it can be much, much worse than that.
No, of course.
We just had a guest on, and their daddy issue was to tell sons not to kill their daddies by putting poppers in their nose because their daddies have probably taken Viagra.
Oh, that's good.
Don't mix the two. I have a very complicated relationship with inhalants. That is like one of my drugs of choice. So I don't even really use poppers anymore, but definitely not if I took a blue pill at all.
I want to get back to the Viagra of it all. But before that, I think it's good to repeat this stuff because that knowledge was not known to me, the poppers and Viagra mixing until, I never did it, but it's just not something I think is all that common knowledge of the younger set who don't use Viagra but are using poppers.
And I also think that there are people who are casual about who don't follow this advice and are casual about it and sort of act like it's fine. Yeah. And I'm not like trying to tear those people down.
Right.
But I do think that it can give other folks a false impression that it's no big deal if you see certain people at certain parties who maybe are doing both, right? So
the likelihood is you don't know if people have taken Viagra or...
Right. Although sometimes you do. And you may get the wrong impression that it's no big deal.
Right. I want to go back to your original daddy issue. I wholeheartedly agree with you. And I think... what your husband may be forgetting is that like we are very blessed to be amongst communities of people who talk about this stuff. Yeah. And just know that it's like part of the game. My husband, I don't know what your age is, but he's 43 and he'll use it if he knows that like, oh, I do not want to not be hard in this moment. And so, I think it's very important to remove stigma around all of this stuff. And also just to like, we should all just be forgiving of ourselves and do what you need to do.
A good example that the stigma still exists is how much these mail order erectile dysfunction companies, how much money they are making. Because if I go to my doctor, who is Brian's doctor, thank you so much, and I say, I need a refill on Viagra, he sends me a prescription. I send it to Cost Plus.
Yeah.
And 4 days later, I have a bunch of Viagra for $6.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, if I go online to one of these companies, will not name, but if I am too quote unquote embarrassed to speak to a doctor and then do a telehealth or whatever that looks like, and then get Viagra that way, it's like $150. All because I didn't want to have a conversation with a medical professional who completely gets it.
Yes.
So the shame around erectile dysfunction drugs is alive and well.
Yeah.
And there are companies making millions of dollars off of it.
Yeah.
Don't let them have the satisfaction. Your doctor is not going to judge you, and neither is anybody else.
Well, and if you don't have a doctor who you can talk honestly with about this stuff, I know that not everyone can get that.
Right.
But if you can, I think it makes a really big difference.
Yeah.
I think having a doctor that you can be as honest with as possible about your kinks, about your sex life, it's only good.
Yeah.
Oh, with your doctor? Yeah. Our doctor knows that we do this.
This podcast, yeah. Yeah.
My doctor knows a lot about me.
I'm sure. Imagine. Yes. Yeah. So you're married.
Yeah.
How long have you been married?
2 years.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
And how long were you together before that?
10 years before that.
Amazing.
And we were best friends for 10 years before that.
Oh,
Oh my
wow.
God. What?
Well, for the first 10 years that we knew each other, I would always say to him, he's going to be embarrassed I said this, but I would always say to him, we're going to get married.
Yeah.
And he would say, I'm really not interested. I'm really not interested in you. We're such good friends.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we're not going to get married. And I was always like, no,
Well, you said earlier that you are persistent.
Yes.
Yeah, I believe you used the adjective doggedly.
Doggedly
Or I guess that's an
persistent.
adverb. Doggedly, which I had to check my own grammar. So what flipped? What changed? How did you get them?
I don't think that anything flipped. I think that that's a great question. I think that maybe if we just take it out of him a tiny bit.
Yes.
I think that sometimes people appreciate someone as a best friend and can't see that maybe that's like exactly what you might want in a partner.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like a different category, and then possibly eventually you come around to that.
Yeah.
But no, I was pretty clear about our trajectory, and eventually I was correct. And we've been together for a very long time since then, so obviously it worked out.
Yes.
What's amazing and sort of the common thread that I find in couples with longevity, specifically couples of gay men that I know, is that the ones who are still together and doing the thing are best friends.
Yes.
Totally.
Are best friends.
Yeah.
It's very interesting that that's not the conversation from jump.
Yeah.
Right? Like you kind of hear that like you got to be friends. It is true that people get married for all sorts of different reasons. But my experience in watching other couples be successful, they're best friends. It took me a long time to admit that my husband is my best friend because I thought husband had to be a different category.
Right.
And the reality is like he's my best friend.
Yeah.
He's my best friend.
I also think that for me personally, that was always my ideal, was the best friend, boyfriend.
Right.
Like, when I was also growing up in kind of this erotic fan fiction world when I was young.
Okay.
And what I would always want was two characters who were two guys who were best friends in whatever the source material was to then fall in love.
What was your source material of choice?
Well, unfortunately, for a very long time, I was very deep in the Harry Potter fandom, which I am no longer. I've actually fully memory holded, and sometimes people will bring up like details of stories or characters, and I'm like, I truly don't remember. Like, I actually have put it away.
Okay.
Because of my sort of disgust at her
J.K.
transphobia.
Rowling, yes.
Yeah. But it's still a very illustrative example that, like, a lot of people wanted Harry and Malfoy to kiss.
Oh.
And I was always like, well, I want Harry and Ron to kiss. And that was in the world of Harry Potter fan fiction at the time. That was not a very common desire.
Yeah.
The girl, it was mostly me and women, and they were wanting just completely different things.
Right.
And I was like, yes, these two male best friends, they should be in love. And then I married my best friend.
Yeah.
So,
and I don't want to ask you to speak about his business, but can I at least ask, is he also a kinkster?
oh gosh. I don't know if I can answer that.
Okay.
I did tell him I wouldn't spill his tea too much.
Right, of course.
But
And we respect that.
yeah, but I think at least we can say he's very supportive of me finding my bliss.
Amazing.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's all we can ask for.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But it is funny to think about those 10 years when we were building up. And, at the time, the other thing too is like we were, on again, off again lovers during all that time.
Right.
So sometimes people are like, well, did you go through this slog of opening your relationship that you describe in the book, like negotiating it, maybe one person wanting it more than the other, et cetera, et cetera. And it's like, well, we were so close for so long before we were together that like, it wasn't really like that.
Right.
We already knew everything about each other. And it was like, well, how could I possibly be jealous?
Right.
I've watched you be with other people for many, many years.
Right,
so
right.
I think that was easier.
I think that's how. I mean, we opened in not quite 2 years into our relationship, but it came from this very organic, like, well, how could I possibly be jealous feeling that just developed because like our trust was so present.
Yeah, right, totally. And I will say that, interestingly, I have thought at various times that I was completely immune to jealousy. And I have found out that that's not true.
100%. Yeah.
Which is always interesting to feel that come up because it's like, oh.
And what triggers it. And yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Jealousy. An old friend I haven't seen in a long time. Like, there it is.
We did an episode on jealousy early on because, we talk all the time about how, I don't think we ever talked about being post-jealousy, but we talked about like how open relationships can work and why jealousy is not a strong figure in ours. And then I had this moment of real jealousy and I felt like I needed to come out about it on the podcast and tell people like, oh, look, I can feel it. And in the moment, it was that I had discovered that there was a repeat hookup of my husband's who had started asking him out to like, let's work out together. Let's go get coffee and these things. And I didn't sit right with me. And then, and that was a long time ago now. And our relationship has evolved a lot because of the communication that has been built on the conversations we have on the podcast. Like I'm so open and honest about our life here that we just talk about it also off mic. And so I went to him the other day and I said, I know this is probably too little too late, but if you wanted to see that person again, it's totally fine. Which also largely came out of the fact that like there's a couple of people in my life now who I want to be repeating with, and I don't want it to, and I'm like, you know what? I now realize how it feels on this side of it. And so, but yeah, jealousy still comes up.
Which one of you was it, or maybe it was a guest who told a story about, I might get this wrong, but it was like someone who you had a crush on's husband was sleeping with one of your husbands. And so there was jealousy, but it was like a little bit unclear who you were even jealous of. Do you remember
that was absolutely me. And the situation was, or is, it's definitely sort of faded. I have a friend from college. My friend from college has a very hot husband. My husband is hooking up with friend from college's husband. And I thought I was jealous of the hot husband, but actually I was jealous of the hot husband's proximity to my friend from college, who I still have a crush on 22 years later.
I felt, when I heard you tell that story the first time, I was like, this is like my jealousy story. Not specifically that sort of convoluted group of people, but like, like sometimes I know that when I get jealous, it's not even necessarily like that someone else is getting my husband. It's like something else. It's like I'm jealous that like I want to sleep with someone who that person's sleeping with, like you're saying.
Yes, it can be a little removed.
Yes, it's a couple degrees removed. It's not like, or it might not be like, oh, this person's sleeping with my husband. It's like, well, that's fine.
Right.
But there's something else here that's getting my hackles up a little.
Right. For me, it's often just like, oh, he's having sex with somebody else, so now I want to have sex with somebody else. It's just, the very like, well, now I need that validation from, outside.
And what about do you experience when someone wants him but not you, or how does that work?
Our hookups are so separate that I'm typically not aware of that. The one time that it did happen, we were on the dance floor at in the pavilion at Fire Island, and this guy would just not leave him alone. And Toby eventually said, like, well, we'll both go home with you. And the guy was into that, but then the guy wasn't into that. And like when I was there, I was just like a witness. And it was kind of annoying in the moment, but that was a long time ago. And I think at this point, I would probably be fine with it. I mean, if it was somebody that I had been like lusting after all night and Toby didn't care, and then all of a sudden they came up to Toby, that would like probably irk me. But
I feel a little sensitive about, and actually about both, about people being attracted to him but not me, or me and not him. Like occasionally people will say to me like, oh, like you're the hot one, I'm so into you, like we need one-on-one time. And I'm like, that actually doesn't
Right. I don't want to
Feel
hear that.
good.
I don't want to hear that.
No,
No.
You're the
doesn't
hot
excite
one.
me.
It's like, dude, you're criticizing my choice in my partner, who is also the hot one, just maybe not to you. Brian posted my talking about what it's like to watch younger men flock to my husband because he has a much more like typical, sort of like the standard definition of daddy, like by age, by body type, by silver. And I have actually come around to being quite used to that and admiring of that. So when I see that in a party situation, I'm like, I'm so proud of him. And I'm also so proud of myself because I'm like, my decision in him is getting validated by these other people, even though I don't fucking know them. Like, it's complicated, but not untrue.
Yeah.
And like on the apps, the reason that I'm kind of prevented from jealousy is because, and my husband can attest to this, my husband is constantly inviting me as a third.
Yeah.
Constantly. Like almost every guy that he's connecting with online, he's like, do you want to hook up with us? And like, and it's not because they're not hot. It's just that like most of the time I have something else in mind to do with my time.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
I don't think he's doing it to prevent me from being jealous. He's doing it because he knows it's fun for the three of us to be together. I just tend to have like a different use of my time in mind. Sorry, honey, I love threesomes with you. We had a bunch on vacation and they were great.
I only wish.
I think what happens with us occasionally is like he's a ginger and I am, half Mexican, sort of have darker hair, darker eyes, etc. And sometimes there are people who are have a taste for one or the other.
Yes.
And they don't feel shy expressing that.
Right.
And I'm like, I actually think this is totally fine. But we don't need to know what your proclivities are.
Right.
We don't need to know. We don't need to know.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to force us to take one more break, and then we're going to come back and do our Go Ask Your Dad.
Sweet. Hey, listeners, welcome back to Dads and Daddies, the podcast. We have arrived at Go Ask Your Dad, where we address listener-submitted questions. Just as a reminder, everybody here at this table is a professional. Wait.
I'm not any of those things that you
Okay,
usually
got
say.
it. I was like, wait, he might be.
No.
Nobody here is nobody here is a therapist, mental health care practitioner, doctor, lawyer, or financial planner.
To send us a Go Ask Your Dad question, please email us at dadsanddaddies@gmail.com. Voice memos do turn us on the most. And folks, we need your questions. Send us questions. We're running low. Judson is going to read us this week's question.
My fiance and I are opening up after being together for almost 6 years. Congratulations. Initially, I was against the idea and never really saw myself as someone who could be in an open relationship. But with therapy and communication, I've come around to the idea. One thing we are both interested in, but are struggling to find, are orgies and groups. I think other than just not knowing where to look, we both are nervous about creeps and are concerned about health. Do you guys have any advice for finding safe, comfortable group sex? FYI, we are in Portland, Oregon.
Oh, great question.
Yeah.
Such a good one.
Do you want to start?
Well,
I feel like I can address the creeps and health, but the finding it, I think you might have some thoughts on, having just written a book about how to find your kink community.
it's interesting. I feel like, I would say my biggest piece of advice is just start putting it out there, which I suppose writing into a podcast is one way that you would do that.
Yeah.
But if you start putting it out there in your community, for me personally, the most fun orgies and group sex experiences I've ever had were medium-sized to small in private homes by invitation only.
Agreed, 100%.
And it kind of sounds like that's really what they want. A little bit of a more curated vibe.
Yeah.
Now, I'm also happy to go to the bait club, to, big fuck parties, like whatever.
Right.
But some of the things that they are concerned about may be more present at those. And if I was this person, I might want to do some small groups before getting into the deep end.
Yes,
and it's
exactly
possible that they would feel differently about like the potential creeps, for example, once you feel more comfortable with the whole shebang.
right. I mean, the creeps, I think, I think we always just lead with kindness,
Yeah.
but yes, when you go to like you're describing the more public sex parties, will there be people who feel that are a little bit more persistent than you would like them to be? Sure, but I think if you continue to just hold steady and move away and gently move their hands away, put yourself in a more comfortable spot of the place. I have always found them to be the minority. I've never walked into a place that it's all that vibe. And then health wise, I mean, I think DoxyPep is a miracle. And I also think health is at this point largely more a stigma than an actual problem. If you don't have a problem going to a clinic and speaking to people and getting the drugs that you need, I mean, STIs are a what do you call it? They're cost of doing business. You know what I mean?
Like, you pick up one end of the stick, you pick up the other.
Yeah, I think if you are gentle with yourself and your partner and forgive yourself and don't feel the guilt and the shame and the stigma around STIs, and you get yourself a prescription for DoxyPep, at least in New York City, the clinics like want to give you DoxyPep. Yeah. They like practically like throw it at you. I mean, I don't know Portland, but I would hope that, it has a liberal reputation, that there's a clinic that you can find that is similar.
And should we say what it is?
DoxyPep? Yes.
Do you think everyone knows?
No, maybe not.
Well, it's like a dose of doxycycline you take after you have sex, and it lowers your chance of getting certain STIs by like 70% or something.
Or more, yeah. It's a significant percent.
It's significant. It's not like PrEP in that PrEP is virtually 100%.
Right.
But it's radically reducing the chance of you getting like chlamydia or gonorrhea.
Yes. I mean, according to Google, it reduces syphilis risk by 70 to 80%, chlamydia by 70 to 79%, and gonorrhea by 50 to 57%.
Okay.
Great. And yes, and I think you can take it within 72 hours of having sex. So look into that. Get yourself feeling better about the stigma and the shame around STIs. Creeps, I don't think you should worry about, because I mean, sure, if you go to some of these public parties, are there people? And also, creeps is a tough term for me, because I don't think for the most part people have bad intentions. I think that the people who are unwelcome in the experiences that I've had are people who seem to me to feel like this is an environment that they can go where it should be all welcoming, and where they know they can find sex easily, and maybe they don't find it easily other places. And so they might go there feeling emboldened to touch you, and they might feel emboldened to even try a second and third time, because maybe the first time that you pushed away, your intention wasn't that. But I don't think people really are. I just try to find kindness in your heart for those people.
Well, I think that's interesting. I mean, I really agree with everything you said. And I would say that I have encountered creeps. Sure. I also maybe wouldn't foreground that term, but that's not unknown to me.
Sure.
And I think that really it is a question of, are they participating in standard communication styles?
Right.
Like, if they are not taking a no,
right,
even a subtle no,
right,
then that's actually what sort of makes them a creep. And I think that my advice would be, feel free to use escalatingly clear communication towards them.
Right.
Like, I think if there's someone who I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed by at a party, my first move is like the double tap, like as if to say, we're done here.
Right.
But that's a fairly subtle way of communicating. And it might get to where I have to use words.
Right.
Like, I'm really not interested in you.
Right.
And of course I would say, of course, try to be kind and if someone is not picking up what you're putting down, get clearer.
Yeah.
The thing I wanted to say about the health stuff, I totally agree with you that I think that it's more of a stigma than an actual big deal.
Right.
If you're on PrEP, you're not really talking about HIV.
Mm-hmm.
You're mostly talking about infections that can be cured and
Mm-hmm.
are not going to have lead to a chronic condition. But I think probably there's no way to move through that shame until you actually have one.
Yeah.
And I think that when you have one, you will feel you may not, but you definitely may feel awful.
Yeah.
And that feeling will pass.
Yeah. And as with everything, for me, that did happen. But for me, it was about having people in my life that I could talk to about it. And I could talk to my husband, and I could talk to some very close friends. And they all helped me laugh it off and realize again that it was cost of doing business. And to me, that's also the solution to, like you said, for my experience is that curated, invited house parties, sex parties have been my favorites. Or even if they're not in a house, like curated, invited, like the JXXL parties, have been the best experiences. And the way to do that is to find people you can talk to. And our hookup of the week today was somebody who met somebody on Grindr and then ended up getting like really incredible vacation recommendations from them, and and were introduced to people on a vacation. I mean, like, I do think the apps can have multiple purposes, and if you can feel comfortable because the apps are the apps and there is an anonymity, putting it out there, your interest in sex parties or just sex positive conversation, you might find like-minded people who eventually can either point you to a house party or, hey, maybe you'll meet enough people you can throw your own.
Well, I was going to say that. I think sometimes you have to throw the party you dream of.
Yeah.
I've definitely had to do that.
Yeah.
And it isn't the same experience to host a group versus to participate in one in someone else's space. But if you're service oriented, you could get an extra kick out of that.
You go.
Or it can still be fun, right? And especially because, when you're the curator, you're bringing in all the guys who you like, right?
Yeah.
A couple other like nuts and bolts things I would mention about finding these spaces. There are a couple of the kind of apps and sites that curate groups specifically. So on Sniffies, there are groups and sort of parties set up that way. And also on FetLife. FetLife is probably the biggest clearinghouse of kink events, parties, etc. on the internet. Do y'all know what FetLife is?
Can you spell it?
FET, like fetish.
Oh, fet.
Life.
Life. Got it. I was thinking fet, like French for a party.
Well,
got it.
That has occurred to me too.
That's the gayer version.
So gay. Fet.
Well, and I will say, like, FetLife is not very gay male.
Oh, okay.
Not none. And I certainly, have found interesting things on there, but it is more reflective of like the actual population of the world. It's like the kinky people many of whom are straight, many of whom are like straight centered, even if they maybe also sometimes have sex with other people. Maybe they're bi.
Right.
It's not really a gay male space. And if you're bi, you still might actually find gay stuff on there too. But those are the two that come to my mind that really have like a group kind of feature.
Yeah.
And not to be whatever, but like Google it. I bet if you
I was just going to say, I'll bet you'll be surprised sometimes what Google will turn up with the simplest of searches.
I mean, Gemini anymore. What I will also contribute here is for our listener who is asking, you and your fiance have been together for 6 years. It sounds like you're just coming around to the idea of openness. This is not a problem that needs solving. This is an opportunity for you to explore with your partner. Go slowly. You don't have to feel like you're in a rush. And something that Brian and I share with folks all the time is like, go to many, 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 many events. Because some are diamonds and some are rocks. And it's just collectively over time that you really get to enjoy it. Like, this is something that my husband and I have been at for 15 years. And the network that we have of people that we can enjoy our open relationship only exists because we have built it over 15 years, a day at a time. So go slow and know that you're in it together. It's going to be awesome. Lastly, as an intro to group sex, I love a bait party. I love a bait party. There is so much less negotiation. It's not like who puts what where. Yeah. It's like, can I touch it? Can I kiss you? Like those are it. Like those are the questions. And it's also great because you don't have to really prepare. Like shower, brush your teeth, but like boom, ready to go.
I know.
So I just Googled Portland bait party and things came up. So
yes, Portland bait party.
and there's a site about kinky dykes, lesbians, queers, and gender expansive homos to get together and get freaky in and around Portland, Oregon. So yeah, I mean, just try Portland bait party and see what comes up.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that, I think I have an actual kink for like group bait, but I think that anyone could have fun, right? Like it doesn't have to be specifically your thing. You could be there partially to warm up to potentially doing more parties.
Be proud that you went, and I'm always down to enjoy a very hot scene that I am not involved in
me too.
At all.
Yeah. In fact, it's fantastic.
I don't need to be included in this. Thank you for the gift of being able to watch you two hotties stroke each other's penises.
I know. I actually feel like even with threesomes, I often, sometimes you get in a situation where you can tell that the person's trying really hard to pay equal attention to the other two people, which I think is very, that's probably right. Like, that's great. You know
it's
what
admirable.
I mean? No, it's totally admirable. And I'm like, if y'all are having energy, I'm happy. Just being here is participating.
Well, I think this is what I've realized about myself is that like my husband's not into threesomes, but like I think the hot wifing thing might be the way to go for us.
Yeah.
You might have to call it hot husbanding, but
I don't know. Do we?
I kind of like sticking with hot wifing.
Specifically in the book, you say that it's like a gender
gender inclusive term,
just like daddy.
No, okay, all right.
Hot wifing, gender inclusive. Daddy, gender inclusive.
Jack, thank you so much.
What
for
a
coming.
pleasure!
Oh
what a fucking pleasure!
Thank you for having me. So fun.
So much fun. Tell the listeners where they can find you.
Oh, well, my digital home is on Instagram at J_C_H_Q. So that's my initials, JCHQ, separated by underscores. If you're more interested in the sort of, very, very professionalized side of things, you're also welcome to follow me on LinkedIn. I do post there a lot about LGBTQ global happenings. But those are really probably the two places to find me.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm not sure if I thanked our listener. Thank you for submitting that Go Ask Your Dad question. It was amazing, and I think that was a really great conversation. Y'all, thank you for being with us one more week. We love you so much. Please do leave us a 5-star rating, write us a review. They really do help us and mean so much to us. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on YouTube, Amazon, wherever you find podcasts, and tell your friends. I kind of want to challenge every one of our listeners to bring one new friend next week.
Yeah.
And then
double this shit up.
And then please also visit us online at dadsandaddies.com. You can get yourself some Dads and Daddies merch. We've got to set Jack up with some merch. And then also sign up for our weekly newsletter. Where we'll always remind you that we have a new episode. And our newsletters will always tell you, it's the only place you can find out who our next week's guest is. So if you want the inside knowledge, sign up for that at dadsandaddies.com. With that, I think we will say goodbye and we'll see you in a week.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.